The wreckage smoldered under the twin suns of Kareth 7, and Captain Ellen Ward knew she should keep moving. The crashed Velcros warship had been stripped clean by scavengers, its crew long dead or scattered. Her mission was reconnaissance, not rescue. But then she heard it, a sound that shouldn't exist in the silence of a battlefield. A whimper. Ellen moved carefully through the debris, her plasma rifle ready. The sound came from beneath a collapsed bulkhead, and when she shifted the metal aside, she froze. Huddled in the shadows was a Velcros cub, no larger than a house cat but infinitely more dangerous. Its obsidian scales were dull with malnutrition, and its 6 eyes, normally glowing with predatory intelligence, were dim and unfocused. The Velcros were apex predators, engineered by an ancient civilization to be the perfect soldiers. They conquered systems with ruthless efficiency, their empire spanning half the known galaxy. Their young were never abandoned, never left behind. This one had been. Ellen's tactical display flashed a warning. Her ship would leave orbit in 20 minutes. Command would never approve what she was considering. The Velcros had slaughtered millions. They'd glassed entire planets. They were humanity's enemy, but this wasn't a soldier. This was a child. She holstered her weapon and reached out slowly. The cub hissed, baring needle-sharp teeth, but it was too weak to strike. Ellen wrapped it in her thermal blanket and tucked it against her chest. Its body trembled with each labored breath. Stupid, she muttered to herself. This is so stupid. The cub made a small chirping sound, almost like a question. Threx, Ellen said suddenly, remembering an old Earth word for a creature both feared and misunderstood. I'll call you Threx. The Galactic Council nearly executed her for treason. Bringing a Velcros aboard a human vessel violated 17 interstellar laws. The admirals wanted the cub destroyed immediately, studied at best. But Captain Ward had spent 2 decades earning her reputation as humanity's most decorated officer. She'd saved colonies, brokered peace treaties, and survived conflicts that would have broken lesser soldiers. She used every favor, every ounce of political capital she'd accumulated. Give me 1 year, she demanded in the council chambers. 1 year to prove that nature isn't destiny. The vote passed by a single margin. Threx grew quickly. Velcros matured faster than humans, their bodies adapting to whatever environment raised them. But something unexpected happened. The aggression, the instinctive violence that defined his species, it never fully manifested. Instead, Threx learned. He learned human languages, plural, mastering 7 dialects before his first year ended. He learned human history, devouring accounts of wars and peace, of cooperation and betrayal. He learned human philosophy, spending hours debating ethics with Ellen over dinner. Why did you save me? Threx asked one evening, his voice a rumbling bass that rattled the mess hall windows. He was already twice Ellen's size, his scales now gleaming with health. Ellen looked up from her data pad. Because you needed help. My kind would have left me to die. They would say I was weak, unworthy. Maybe, Ellen said carefully. But humans believe something different. We believe everyone deserves a chance. Threx's 6 eyes studied her intently. Even your enemies? Especially our enemies. That's the only way the cycle ever ends. 20 years later, the Velcros Empire stood at the brink of civil war. The Old Guard wanted to continue the conquests, to expand the Empire's borders until every species knelt or burned. But a new faction had emerged, led by a commander who'd achieved the impossible. He'd defeated human forces in 12 consecutive engagements without a single civilian. Casualty Commander Threx had become a legend. His strategies were unconventional, blending Velcros aggression with something the Empire had never seen: restraint. He negotiated before attacking. He offered surrender terms that weren't humiliating. He treated prisoners with dignity. The traditionalists called him corrupted, weak, human-touched. They weren't wrong about the last part. When Threx's fleet arrived at Earth's orbital stations, every defense grid activated. Alarms screamed across the homeworld. Humanity prepared for the war they'd always feared, the Velcros coming for their heart. But Threx's ships held position. No weapons charged, no troops deployed. A single transmission cut through the chaos, broadcast on every channel. I request an audience with Captain Ellen Ward. They met in a neutral station, surrounded by diplomats and soldiers from a dozen species. Threx had to duck to enter the conference room. his massive frame barely fitting through the reinforced doorway. Ellen stood waiting, older now, her hair gray but her eyes still sharp. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. "You've started a revolution," Ellen said quietly. "You started it," Threx replied. 20 years ago, when you chose mercy over fear. The Empire won't forgive you." "I know." Threx's scales rippled, a Velcros expression of grim determination. "Half my species wants me dead. They say I've betrayed everything we are. What do you say?" Threx moved to the window, gazing out at the stars. "I say that the strongest predator isn't the one who kills everything. It's the one who knows when not to." Ellen joined him at the window. Below them, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and impossibly fragile. "The Empire is terrified," Threx continued. "Not of human weapons. Not of your fleets. They're terrified of what you did to me. Because if one Velcros can change, others might too. And if we change, if we choose something other than conquest..." "The Empire falls," Ellen finished. "The Empire transforms," Threx corrected, "into something that might actually survive." The door behind them opened. A Velcros admiral entered, scales scarred from countless battles, followed by a delegation of younger officers. They knelt before Threx, a gesture of submission that shocked every human in the room. "Commander," the admiral said, his voice heavy with emotion, "we've come to join you." Ellen watched as more Velcros entered, then more. Officers and soldiers, scientists and engineers. A trickle that would become a flood. She'd saved one life on a battlefield long ago, never imagining the consequences. Now that decision rippled across the galaxy, toppling an empire, rewriting the future. Threx looked down at her, his 6 eyes reflecting the light of 1,000,000,000 stars. "Thank you," he said simply, "for seeing what I could become instead of what I was." Ellen smiled, remembering a scared cub wrapped in a thermal blanket. "You were always going to be extraordinary," she replied. "You just needed someone to believe it first." Outside the station, the fleets of 2 civilizations hung in space, not as enemies, but as something new, something unprecedented. And across the Empire, in 1,000 systems, the old guard watched with mounting horror, as their perfect soldiers learned the most dangerous human lesson of all. Compassion was not weakness. It was evolution.